We are excited you're virtually joining us today. I'm Laura Sturdivant, Senior Director of Product Development at Sam's Club, and with me is Amy Parton, Senior Director of Product Development for Private Brand at Walmart.
Before we hear from our speakers, as a reminder, please refrain from talking about competitively sensitive matters, such as pricing, capabilities, and competitive strategies as they present antitrust risk. Now let's start the summit.
When it comes to packaging, Walmart works with suppliers to reduce packaging and make it recyclable, reusable, or industrially compostable.
While we strive to become a more regenerative company, Walmart is committed to eliminating waste in our own operations and making strides toward a circular economy around the globe.
You know, Doug's call for the importance of getting to zero emissions, how to eliminate waste right along the value chain, and understanding how that spurs regeneration is inspirational.
When we work on packaging, we create a lot of benefits for customers around convenience and affordability and so on, peace of mind around what they do with it when they're done, but we also help draw down emissions.
We can't wait to hear what you're going to come up with when it comes to thinking about reuse and piloting with Walmart.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Walmart's Sustainable Packaging Summit 2020. Our company was founded on Sam Walton's vision of saving people money so that they can live better. We understand that for a business to last, it must have a fundamental reason for being, which is found in the value it creates not only for shareholders, but for everyone. Walmart has collaborated with others to drive positive change across global supply chains for more than 15 years now. Our focus on climate, waste, nature, and people has paid off in measurable ways. But it's just not enough. Without action, the annual flow of plastic into the ocean will nearly triple by 2040. Collectively, we must go beyond sustainability as it is understood and practiced today. Walmart recently set a goal to become a regenerative company dedicated to restoring, renewing, and replenishing in addition to conserving. Regeneration also means eliminating waste all along the product chain. We aim to break the link between consumption and waste, moving towards a circular economy where materials stay in use instead of being thrown out at the end of their purpose. Walmart is committed to achieving zero waste in our own operations in the US, Japan, and Canada by 2025, and we work with suppliers to use less packaging design for recyclability and to improve waste reduction systems. As you saw in our opening video, innovating on sustainable packaging is something we've been doing for years. We're engaging innovators to find viable alternatives to plastic and working with our suppliers to reduce plastic packaging, increase recyclable packaging, and actively involve customers in the process. There are so many great examples. Two of my favorites come from Dr. Scholl's and Sam's Club. Dr. Scholl's replaced 100% of the packaging for its insoles with paperboard. They added the How to Recycle label and reduced the amount of plastic packaging by 30% on their new packs. All of this helped us to remove over 200,000 pounds of plastic annually. That's equivalent to getting rid of 8 million water bottles. With the scale of a global enterprise, even small changes can have a big impact. For instance, all of our Frito-Lay multi-pack chips at Sam's Club will be moving from plastic overwrapped trays to fully enclosed cubes early next year. Doing this will remove around 140 million square feet of plastic wrap from landfills annually. Thank you for those teams. Today, an estimated 55% of our private brand packaging is recyclable, reusable, or industrially compostable, putting us well in reach of our goal of 100% by 2025. But as we all know, there is still much more to do. As nations respond to the global pandemic, we've seen customer behavior around the world drastically change. Single-use products are on the rise, and in some countries, recycling programs have been put on hold. So now more than ever, we need to innovate and create solutions that can benefit or make life easier for our customers and for our associates. And we need all the help we can get from merchants, from suppliers, from packaging companies, our NGO allies, and more. This is an end-to-end effort, and no one part is truly effective on its own. Not only is this the right thing to do for society, it's also good for business. from building trust with our customers to reducing true costs along the value chain. Today, you're going to hear from experts and leaders on the cutting edge of addressing plastic waste. It's my hope that today's discussions are not only insightful and practical, but also inspiring and motivating, because it will take each of us, individually and collectively, taking courageous action now to create a more regenerative future. So let's start with our first group of leaders from our Walmart US, Canada, and Sam's Club businesses. Take it away, Rob.
Thanks, Jane. My name is Rob Nickel, and I'm the Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Walmart Canada. I'm here today with Scott Morris, Senior Vice President of Private Brand Food, Consumables, and Manufacturing for Walmart US, and Pratibha Rajashekar, Senior Vice President, Private Brands and Sourcing, Sam's Club US. I'm passionate about sustainability, and I help lead efforts across the Canadian market, working with our private brand and merchant teams as we strive to be a regenerative company. We launched our Walmart Canada Plastic Charter in 2019, aiming to use less plastic and to make the plastic we do use more easily recyclable. We're also working with suppliers to expand the use of how to recycle labeling. And we're eliminating certain single-use plastics and replacing them with better alternatives. We work closely with all the Walmart markets to share best practices, learnings, and insights. Associates from across the globe focus on sustainability. And sustainable packaging is something that nearly everyone can work on. Of course, we're also customers. As we buy for our families and live more for home during COVID-19, we're all seeing the amount of waste that can quickly accumulate. And it makes us want to make even more progress on this file. Scott, can you share what drives you to eliminate plastic waste and explain our sustainability goals for packaging in private brands?
Thanks, Rob. Happy to share. It's empowering to work for a company like Walmart that incorporates sustainability into our everyday jobs. It's inspiring to see passionate associates in the organization who are actively working to reduce our plastic waste. This is especially true when it comes to working on packaging and single-use plastics for private brands. Our goal is broken into 3 sections. 1, use less plastic. We are focused on eliminating unnecessary packaging, incorporating recycled content, and piloting and scaling reusable packaging. 2, make it recyclable. There's no reason why common packaging types like bottles, jugs, jars, and boxes can't be 100% recyclable. We're focused on eliminating packaging features that may prevent recycling from those common packaging types. The labels, adhesives, and attachments all have an impact for optimizing recyclability. For packaging like bags, tubes, and clamshells, more work is needed. We're encouraging our suppliers to join organizations like US Plastics Pact and be an active part of the discussion on ways to create solutions for these hard to recycle formats. 3, label it. We have a set goal to label our food and consumable private brand products for recyclability. We believe it's important to be transparent with our customers and use labels to educate them on whether packaging is recyclable or not. Pratibha, could you share more details on the importance of transparency?
Hey, Scott, of course. As you know, transparency is of utmost importance to our customers and members across all markets. This year, for the very first time, Walmart reported its plastic footprint data through its annual ESG reports. We believe sharing data transparently is a way to establish trust. It helps us and our private brand suppliers understand the work that still needs to be done to accomplish our 2025 private brand goals. The number we share are estimated based on supplier reports. So now let's talk through our packaging footprint data. As seen here, we've published through our ESG reports the total weight of Walmart Inc.'s private brand primary plastic packaging, percentage of private brand packaging that's recyclable, reusable, and industrially compostable, percent PCR in Walmart Inc. private brand packaging. Also, through our global commitment with Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we've reported the highest volume of plastics in Walmart private brand packaging, as well as plastic packaging materials eliminated. Setting goals is the first step, but reporting progress, taking part in collective action, and engaging our associates are all critical next steps. Walmart's annual sustainability reporting period is happening right now, and it is essential that our suppliers report before the deadline so we can continue to measure progress and celebrate all the good work that is happening around us. The next several speakers will speak to these topics. As Jane mentioned at the top of the session, the time to act is now. Big actions and changes are needed with speed to reduce plastic waste so we can make this planet a better planet for all.
Hello, this is Ben Dixon. I'm a partner in a company called Systemic, and I was invited here to talk about plastics and plastics packaging. Thanks very much for inviting me. The reason for this is because Systemic, together with our partners, has just published a new piece of research called Breaking the Plastic Wave, published together with the Pew Charitable Trusts and our partners at the University of Oxford, University of Leeds, Common Seas, and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Before I go and talk about our research project and the relevance for the plastics packaging system, first of all, I'm going to show you a video. So the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is one of our partners in the research. They're a global NGO that works on the circular economy, this whole concept of an economy that radically reduces waste and reduces the pressure that we're putting on the planet. Well before we started our research, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation was leading the charge on plastic waste. They've given us permission to share their new bite-sized video, which provides a great introduction to this session of the summit.
By 2050, there could be more plastic than fish in the oceans. Yet the problems start long before plastic reaches our oceans, rivers and beaches, and so must the solutions. We must tackle this flood at the source. We must eliminate the plastic we don't need. We must innovate, so all the plastic we do need is designed to be safely reused, recycled or composted. And we must circulate everything we use, making sure the plastic we produce stays in the economy and never becomes waste or pollution.
Join our journey to make plastic waste and pollution a thing of the past.
Thanks very much to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation for allowing us to share that video. I hope you agree it provides a really good, concise explanation of the plastics packaging challenge, wonderfully narrated by David Attenborough. So back to our research project. First of all, who is Systemic? So Systemic is a B Corp company. We're based in London, Munich in Germany, and Jakarta in Indonesia. We have a mission to drive system change solutions for major social and environmental challenges, including the challenge of plastic waste. So why did our Systemic team spend almost 2 years building a global plastic flow model and a scenario analysis tool that captures all of the global flows of single-use plastics, and it models the effects of different solutions from plastic bans all the way through to better recycling systems? Well, the answer to that question is best illustrated with this picture of my 2 daughters. The first picture is from Bali in Indonesia. It's a community on the west coast of Bali where a cliff of plastic waste washes in from the ocean every winter. A cliff of plastic waste. This is a community where people rely on tourism and fishing to make a living. And it's also a beach where turtles go to nest. The other picture is closer to home. It's my garden in London. And that's just 1 week's worth of packaging waste, plastic packaging waste. And then after I've used it, that material is collected at quite high cost. And it spends the rest of its life, 400 and something years before it may eventually biodegrade, sitting in a landfill. So I think those 2 photos really show the challenges of plastic waste and plastic pollution that we're talking about today. But we also have to remember these are environmental challenges, but also commercial opportunities. According to the latest McKinsey poll, consumers really care about this. 55% of American consumers are very concerned or extremely concerned about the environmental impact of the packaging that they buy. Retailers and major consumer brands are asking, they're also incentivizing their suppliers to act on plastics packaging. So if you're a company in the supply chain for packaging or for packaged goods, this really starts to look like a great commercial opportunity that is also good for the planet. This is an opportunity to do well by doing good. So coming back to our research project, the goal of the project was to provide a clear view of the plastics challenge today and to project what happens in the future if we continue with current trends, and to look at different scenarios and pathways that could navigate us towards a world that brings plastic waste and plastic pollution down to manageable levels. So where are we now? We currently live in a world where approximately 1 million tons of plastics goes into the ocean every month. And 5 million tons of plastics are burned every month, often in backyards and communities around the world. Even in rich countries, there is an estimated 4 million tons going into landfill facilities every month as an unwanted inheritance to future generations. That material will still be there 400 or 500 years from now. Our model, our research project, showed us that if we follow the current trends, plastic waste generation would double by 2040, plastic pollution into nature would triple by 2040, and the overall stock of plastics in the ocean would quadruple to 650 million tons. The model also showed us that unfortunately, there is no silver bullet solution. The plastic bans and the other regulations that have been announced so far would only reduce the problem by about 7% by 2040. Even if we had space to keep on building landfills, the costs are prohibitive, and large-scale waste incineration turns a plastics problem into an emissions problem. Even recycling on its own, often seen as the savior, is not a silver bullet solution because of the great challenge of scaling up commercially viable recycling systems for the huge diversity of plastic packaging materials that we put on the market. Just look at the diversity of materials in that photo of my garden. But I do have some good news. I want to reassure you, this is not a doom and gloom presentation. There is a different future, and that future doesn't require some kind of plastic-eating worm. It doesn't require us to give up plastics and return to the Stone Age. Through the methodology and the science-based approach that we put in place, we were able to build a system change scenario. And the system change scenario says, what happens if we apply the known technologies that we have, if we apply them urgently, and we apply them in combination across the whole plastic system? This means upstream solutions, which is about reducing and substituting avoidable plastics, but also downstream solutions, better collection systems, better recycling and safe disposal systems. This system change scenario does bring plastic waste and plastic pollution down to manageable levels by 2040. It increases plastic recycling rates, and it actually reduces the cost of plastic management in the system and reduces the greenhouse gas emissions. So this colorful chart that you can see on the page is a description of the system change scenario. The best way to read the chart is you look on the left-hand side is where we're starting in 2016, and the trajectory from left to right shows you what happens to our plastic system. The top line, which we call business as usual, shows you how much plastic waste growth, how much the growth of plastic waste would increase by 2040 if we do nothing. And then what we can also see is the red part of the chart, which is showing you the mismanaged plastic waste. This is the plastics that we're really worried about because it's going into the ocean, or it's being burned in local communities, or it's going into dump sites. And what you can see is by the time we get to 2040, we've managed to reduce the red parts of the chart down to manageable levels. And we've done that with three different things. We've done that with the blue parts of the chart, which is reducing and substituting plastic waste. the green parts of the chart, which is recycling plastics, and the yellow parts of the chart, which is about safe disposal systems for those plastics that we cannot recycle. And it's a bit complicated, and it's 2 years of work, I already told you that. So we've also provided a simple recipe for the industry, a recipe for the makers and users of plastics. And there's only 3 parts of this recipe. The first part we call less plastic. And this means that things like replacing plastic films when we don't need them. For example, plastic films on fresh produce, where we could substitute a protective plant-based coating that extends the shelf life of that produce. Or less plastic because we're able to move away from single-use packaging into reusable packaging models. The second part of the recipe we call better plastic. And this is about being very thoughtful about the plastics we are putting into the world and making sure that they're designed to be recyclable, reusable, or compostable. And also making sure that we're using recycled plastics so that we can really build this positive loop of materials and drive these high-value recycling systems. For those of you that are working with beverage bottles, for example, there's many things we can do to increase the recyclability of beverage bottles, not using unnecessary pigments, making sure that the labels that we're using are suitable for recycling. The last piece of the puzzle is what we call better systems. And that's really where we look at things like the recycling partnership. And Sarah from Dearman from the recycling partnership is going to talk in a minute. Great example of companies working together with governments to build better systems for collection, sortation, and recycling of plastics after use. So hopefully you've got the message. We've done a lot of work. We've built this plastic flow model, and we've also tried to distill this down to a 3-point recipe: less plastics, better systems. And I hope that's something that you can take away from this presentation today. What happens next? So with the team that built this research project, we've been on a unique Zoom roadshow because of the current situation we're in. We've spent a lot of time on Zoom. We've shared the research with companies, governments, investors, civil society. There's a big demand to translate this kind of model into actionable tools, because we want to help all stakeholders to navigate their way through the challenges of plastic waste. And with this in mind, Systemic has partnered with the Recycling Partnership on the first one of these actionable tools. And we've had very generous support from the Walmart Foundation to do that. Sarah Dearman from the Recycling Partnership has kindly joined this session, and she's going to share some more information about the tool that we're developing together. So thanks for the invitation to present, and Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Ben. Breaking the plastic wave is a great example of the thought leadership that is needed to advance the circular economy. As Ben shared, it's critical that we turn research into action, and that is the specialty of the Recycling Partnership, a U.S. nonprofit focused on accelerating the circular economy. Through this collaboration with Systemic, we're building a state-of-the-art digital tool that will enable companies to prioritize actions and build an effective pathway to reduce plastic waste. By helping companies visualize the economic, environmental, and social impacts of their actions, we will maximize the positive effects and drive system change in the US together. This challenge is too big for any of us to address alone. We need everyone to be part of the solution, and the Plastic IQ tool will enable that. Thank you to the Walmart Foundation for supporting this groundbreaking work. Thanks also to the companies and organizations collaborating with us to test this tool. We aim to scale the tool and make it publicly available next year.
Erin Simon, and I am the head of plastic waste and business at World Wildlife Fund. So today I'm going to walk through with you why transparency and reporting are critical levers in addressing these global issues. And in our case, we're going to really be focusing in on the plastic waste crisis. We know this problem is a massive one, and it's going to require a very large-scale response. And so to solve for something like that, we need to start with the root cause of the issue, and which, in the case of plastic waste, is really due to this broken plastic material system. And then from there, understanding what is required to coordinate the action from all the stakeholders in a really targeted way. With all major environmental crises, they are usually multifaceted and complex. And so unfortunately, there's no single lever to pull to really solve them, no golden solution, right? And we've already seen that governments and businesses have leaned in pretty early, right? They have big, ambitious commitments, but no clear roadmap to get there or a mechanism to determine if what they're doing is actually leading to the change we want to see. And so we need to start by getting everyone on the same page. And here's where the importance of measurement comes in. We need measurement not only to identify where we need to engage, but to know if what we're doing is right, if it's getting there. We need transparency, not just to see the whole picture of what's going on, but also to see who's doing what. Different actors are going to have different leverage points in this system, and we need to start getting more granular to understand what folks are doing and identifying gaps. To be effective in systems change, we need to have consistent language and metrics coupled with transparent reporting. So to address this, the measurement and reporting gap, World Wildlife Fund has worked to solve it by developing the resource footprint tracker. We designed this as a mechanism to measure both the quantitative footprint for organizations or institutions and a qualitative assessment of the actions they are taking to improve the system. Those would be things like investment in infrastructure, supportive policy reform, and consumer engagement. So the tracker methodology links how much and what kind of plastic these companies are using to where it ends up in the world, and then uses that information to shape recommendations for action and collaboration. The tracker does so in a comprehensive and consistent way so that companies and organizations are equipped with data-driven insights. And then this can inform their plastic waste actions and strategies, but it can also provide for the first time this larger picture of what their impact in the plastic waste system is, and then have this wider lens of how they can collaborate with others for collective action. So while we're using the tracker for just a handful of companies, ultimately we want everyone to have this common understanding of what the problems are and how each of us can do our part to solve for them. For that reason, the tracker is being used to help the recently launched US Plastic Pact measure its collective progress against their targets, and was designed with Ellen MacArthur Foundation to make sure that it would work for reporting on the global commitment. The US Plastics Pact was set up to bring together all the stakeholders, businesses, government entities, NGOs, researchers, and other stakeholders in the value chain to all work collectively towards this common vision of a circular economy in the US. And so to bring all those stakeholders together and drive collaborative action, the US Plastic Pact has this vision to deliver a step change, right, towards the circular economy, and to really then enable companies and governments in the US to collectively meet those targets they've set by 2025 that we know that they couldn't actually achieve on their own. So again, consistent measurement and transparency will be the key in helping to rally all of those stakeholders to do their part in meeting the US Pact's ambitious targets by 2025. Imagine what we could do if all the stakeholders here today engaged in the same way, if we all had that same information, and if each of us understood what our part of the whole was and could collectively track that progress together. That is really what we need for a future where no plastic ends up in nature. To continue this discussion, I'm going to hand it over to Sri Navalpakam with Unilever. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, everyone. My name is Sri. I'm a sustainability manager at Unilever. Excited to be here today with you. Over 10 years ago, Unilever introduced a simple but clear purpose: to make sustainable living commonplace. And for us to achieve our purpose, we have to develop a new way of doing business, one that's really focused on transparency and action. This applies to many areas of our business, such as our move to disclose fragrance ingredients in our beauty and personal care products, and our efforts to work with suppliers to drive accountability in the palm oil sourcing space. It also applies to our work in plastic and waste. Unilever purchases 700,000 tons of plastic per year globally. We made our plastics footprint public in October of 2019 when we announced our new stretching plastic waste targets. We made this public because we believe transparency drives action, not only for ourselves, but also to help encourage others to act and to scale up the impact. Last year, Unilever became the first major consumer goods company to commit to an absolute reduction of plastic across its portfolio. By 2025, we will have our use of virgin plastic. More than 100,000 tons of this will come from absolute plastic reduction, and the rest by accelerating our use of recycled plastic. I'm really excited to share that 1 year in, we are on track towards achieving our goals. We've joined the US Plastics Pact as a founding activator, and we've also transparently shared our progress on our key targets. But of course, 2020 has been a little bit unlike any other year, and we have a lot of work left to do, but we remain committed. Post-consumer recycled plastic, PCR, now accounts for more than 10% of Unilever's global plastic footprint. This represents a significant increase from 2019. And in North America, we've accelerated our action. We've already reached our 50% milestone. We're also using alternative materials to plastic and less plastic where appropriate when launching new innovations. We continue to test new business models for refillable and reusable packaging. We're committed to sharing our findings publicly and collaborating with our peers and retailers. Basically, we believe that brand trust is paramount to success in today's climate, and transparency will really help to drive that trust. So that's why we're really working hard to bring our commitments and progress to life with consumers on our packs and on the shelf. A few examples of this, all of Unilever's food and mass personal care products in the US are live on Smart Label. So with one click, you as a consumer can now access product information way beyond what is available on the label. We've also committed to adding how to recycle labels on all of our packaging by the end of 2021. This is really an effort to help reduce widespread confusion about our complex recycling system. Finally, with our move to PCR, you will now see clear labels on products like Hellmann's mayonnaise and Dove body wash, articulating the PCR inclusion in the packaging. The time for action on plastic waste is now. Keeping plastic in the economy and out of the environment will really require everyone to work together, whether it's NGOs, retailers, brands, all in an effort to drive transparency, progress, and trust. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sander, and I'm leading all our work on plastics at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Over the past years, we've been mobilizing global momentum behind the vision of a circular economy for plastics. And through our global commitment and plastic pacts, now more than 1,000 organizations are united behind this one common vision of such circular economy for plastics. And by endorsing this vision, these 1,000 organizations are all recognizing that the circular economy approach is the only solution that has the potential to address plastic waste and pollution at scale and at the source. We won't recycle our way out. Equally, we won't simply reduce our way out, but we need that comprehensive circular economy approach, combining first and foremost upstream solutions that reduce and rethink the packaging we put on the market, and secondly, downstream solutions to ensure that we collect and recycle all the packaging that we do put on the market. Beyond uniting behind a common vision, the businesses and governments in the global commitment and pacts have also set concrete 2025 targets, setting a very clear ambition level to aim for. And achieving these will require significant action and fundamental changes. And 2025 is around the corner. So now really is the time to start scaling up delivery towards these targets. Earlier this month, we've launched the Global Commitment Progress Report, which was an important milestone on this journey because for the very first time, this report allowed us to measure the progress made by over 120 businesses and governments, all reporting progress using the same metrics, the same definitions. So it's really generating an unprecedented wealth of data and transparency on who's making progress in which areas and in which areas is progress still lacking. So I'd like to share just a few of the key main insights from that new report. And one is that we do see real progress is being made, especially on recycled content, for example. We see significant jumps being made there, as well as on eliminating some of the most commonly identified problematic items, such as PVC packaging, polystyrene packaging, single-use straws, where almost all of our signatories now have concrete plans to phase these out. The other key insight, however, is that the progress will need to significantly accelerate over the coming years to meet those 2025 targets. And in particularly on upstream solutions. Solutions that reduce the need for packaging in the first place. We need to see much more emphasis, ambition level, and investments in going into these solutions. The recent Breaking the Plastic Wave study reconfirmed that upstream solutions represent more than half of the solution to plastic pollution, while recycling, which is still where the vast majority of industry efforts are focused on, is less than half of the solution. So yes, we need to continue pushing recycling, recyclability, recycled content, but we need to see strategies that are much more balanced and much better reflect the fact that the majority of the solution sits upstream. So we need really bold action on elimination and reuse, and to inspire and support you in doing so, next week we are launching an upstream innovation guide with very actionable frameworks, tools, as well as over 100 case examples that illustrate what is possible if we push the thinking upstream. If we stop seeing this as a very narrow kind of packaging design challenge, but see it as a much broader challenge, a how do I deliver products and services to consumers challenge. So definitely keep an eye out for that report. And then a final insight is that, of course, as I mentioned, recycling remains a part of the solution, but to fix recycling economics, we need some fundamental changes. And without dedicated funding going into the system, the process of collecting, sorting, and recycling plastics simply costs more than the value of the material. So if we do not set up mechanisms that provide dedicated and stable funding to fund these operational expenses of collecting and sorting, if we do not set up such mechanisms in which all industry players pay their fair share, then we'll simply not see any significant increase in collection and recycling rates. So it will be crucial for regulators and businesses to step up and really push for these funding schemes, such as, for example, extended producer responsibility schemes, because without them, we simply won't fix recycling systems. So based on these findings, we will continue to push the thinking at a global level on all these topics going forward, but we'll also continue to translate these into local and regional level contexts in order to really drive action on the ground. And this is where our global network of plastic pacts come in. This network now covers 19 different countries that jointly represent more than 30% of global GDP. And one of the most recent and major plastic pacts is the US Plastic Pact. And on that one, we have the pleasure to be partnering with the Recycling Partnership and with WWF US. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Emily from the Recycling Partnership to talk a bit more about the US Plastics Pact.
My name is Emily Topaldo, and I'm Executive Director of the US Plastics Pact. With the recent launch of the Pact in August and 70 plus activators or members of the Pact, we have a really unique opportunity to collectively set the national framework for a circular economy for plastics in the US. The time is definitely now to engage and contribute your skills and expertise and define what the future of plastics packaging looks like. Building on the global common vision Sander just mentioned, the US Plastics Pact is committed to meeting 4 ambitious targets by 2025, which you can see here. The targets are centered around reducing our use, around reuse, recyclability, compostability, around achieving high recycling and composting rates, and around the use of post-consumer recycled content as well as bio-based content. Each of the 4 targets are tied to this reality that we lack value in the US for a circular economy. Recycling is not cost effective, and we lack demand for recycled plastics. The role of the Pact is to formulate and implement the strategy which will bring together all of the initiatives to overcome these challenges. Currently, in many instances, it's far more expensive to use post-consumer recycled resin than it is to use virgin materials. The activators, or the members of the Pact, are the true engine. And here you can see all of the participating companies and organizations. Those driving the pact, the activators, recognize also, as Sander noted, that we really can't just recycle our way out of our current situation, where it's cheap to put waste into landfills, it's cheap to use virgin materials, and where things are designed for single use. Plastic waste, marine debris, climate impacts, and responsible material use and reuse are mega challenges that one company or one organization really can't tackle on their own. Action is required across the plastics packaging value chain, and that's definitely where the pact comes in. The US Plastics Pact is unique in that it not only brings together the plastics packaging value chain, but also the public sector and nonprofits. And it really draws on that engine, on the activator expertise and the findings from the Global Pact Network. The US Plastics Pact has a unique national voice. It will signal investment as well as policy changes in the US. The pact is also one of a kind in that both transparency and accountability are foundational elements. Each activator as a member of the pact will report annually on their individual progress, and that data will be aggregated so we have a picture pact-wide how the pact as a whole is working toward our targets with a report published each year. The pact will provide the roadmap for finding the solutions and accelerating the solutions toward an effective circular economy for plastics. It will enable companies and organizations to quickly identify where to engage, to help them connect with each other, and to overcome our current unmet challenges. This will enable us to achieve our aggressive targets, working toward that circular economy and sustainability efforts. So we urge you to join us. Thank you.
Imagine a world without waste, where nothing is discarded and everything continues to serve a meaningful purpose. That's a circular economy. That's how we're approaching our business. At Walmart Mexico, we are phasing out the use of plastic bags by January 1st, and we are pleased that Central America reduced plastic bags use by 39% last year alone. Around the globe, Walmart associates are working across all parts of the business to drive a circular economy.
In India, Flipkart has begun the transition to recyclable paper bags for deliveries. Massmart introduced on-pack recycling labels to educate customers and encourage recycling. China's dedication to recycling cardboard saved 100,000 tons of material from the waste stream. Asda is opening a test and learn sustainability store to reduce plastic and encourage customers to reuse and refill. Walmart Canada reduced food waste to landfill by 35% versus the baseline. Walmart Chile recently expanded its donation program to 129 supermarkets. And our Seiyu business in Japan invites their suppliers to donate unmarketable vegetables through Seiyu's donation system. Walmart Argentina offers discounts on food nearing expiration to save customers money and prevent waste.
These are just a few examples of how we are helping address societal issues by reducing waste and creating a more circular economy. It's not enough to be a good business. We must continue to be a business that does good as well.
We've heard from leading experts on the importance of goal setting, transparency, and collective action. And we've just seen a video of international work to reduce waste. Let's now share a few stories from the US teams. At Sam's Club, we're making big strides to incorporate more post-consumer recycled content into our water bottle packaging. In January of next year, members marked half liter will transition from 100% virgin PET to 80% virgin PET, 20% recycled PET. This is equivalent to 17,000 tons of PET moving to PCR material. For the past several years, we've hosted packaging summits to showcase these types of stories. And we've talked about the importance of setting goals and using recycling labels to educate customers on recycling. That said, now is the time to shift to action. The work done to date is not enough. Recycling is important, but recycling alone will not solve our plastic waste problem. It's just not enough. We are starting to see Sam's Club, Walmart, and our international markets move to this type of thinking. And in the next year or two, we'll see which suppliers move with us and which ones don't. I hope that you elect to come with us.
That's right, Clint. We will never achieve our 2025 goals by designing and labeling for recyclability only. We want to see more companies lean in with us on piloting and then scaling reuse and refill systems. We want companies to innovate to reduce plastics, work on airspace reduction, and minimize overwraps. This includes setting a goal to reduce the maximum headspace for all flexible pipe types such as pouches, bags, and flow wraps for the snacks and candy categories. We encourage companies to join the U.S. Plastics Pact as a way to lend your voices to policy discussions as well as infrastructure investment. Martine, how is your team moving quickly to address the plastic and packaging waste issues?
Thanks, Andrea. Walmart and Sam's Club brought together a joint plastics and sustainability packaging task force of merchants to find ways to accelerate the progress towards the use of less plastics, substitution, recyclability, recycled content, and labeling by working with suppliers. Let me share two examples. In packaged salads, Bonduelle removed the plastic lid of the clamshell, replaced it with a resealable film, and substitute virgin plastic with a 30% recycled content. The reduction of plastics has represented a reduction in fossil fuel savings, the equivalent of 3,000 barrels of oil, and 93 million gallons of water, equivalent to 5.4 million showers avoided. And last year, in Tomatoes on the Vine, we carefully studied the customer buying practices in the southwestern US region and tested the removal of polybags with red sun and howling tomatoes. The customers like it, and since then, we've removed 3.7 million polybags from 409 stores and did not replace it with any packaging. Remember, we cannot recycle our way out of plastic waste and must seek innovative and alternative solutions that maintain the freshness of fruits, vegetables, and floral offering, while still offering the low prices our customers expect. We appreciate the suppliers that are already working with us and encourage the rest to step up to the plate. The time to take action is now. In our next session, you will hear from experts on ways to engage. Let's hear from them now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Harrison, CEO of the Recycling Partnership, and we're very glad to be here today with you because our organization works hard to help communities and companies build a better U.S. recycling system. In order to deliver that, it's going to take leadership from everyone in this room. And we see that playing out in a bunch of different ways. One is with the recycling playbook. This is how Walmart is helping to make sure that packaging is designed from the beginning to be recyclable. But I hear many other initiatives that show me that companies are banding together to make meaningful change. We heard that from Sander and Emily around the US Plastic Pact. We heard that from Sarah and Ben with the Plastic IQ tool. I'm also excited about companies who are really working hard behind new policy initiatives in this country, and also companies who are collaborating with the Pathway to Circularity. You may remember when we were together last year in Bentonville that there was a toothpaste tube on the stage. That toothpaste tube helped us kick off a new program called Pathway to Circularity, where we help packaging move from the yellow to the green. We launched that initiative around tubes, and since then we've launched 2 more initiatives, one around polypropylene and another around films and flexibles. Today, I'm very glad to be joined by Deanna Bratter, the head of sustainable development for Danone North America, to speak more about Danone's commitment to making change in polypropylene, flexibles, and more.
Hi, thanks so much, Keith, for the kind introduction, and we're thrilled to have joined forces with the Recycling Partnership in this work. At Danone North America, our shared vision is known as One Planet, One Health, and it really focuses on that interconnectivity between health of our environment and health of all people. We're proud to be the world's largest certified B Corp, and as a B Corp, we meet high standards of transparency as well as social and environmental performance. Being a B Corp is much more than a certification, and While it does give us an opportunity to benchmark performance and continually improve, it also reflects our efforts as business for a force for good in the world, taking a stakeholder-wide approach to decision-making and business growth, as well as ensuring we're focused both on our short-term results as well as our long-term impacts. And this approach is how we view initiatives like packaging. We're committed to improving the circularity of our packaging and recognizing the impact we can have for our customers today and into the future. One of our key commitments is for 100% of our packaging to be recyclable, reusable, or compostable by 2025. And today, 82% of our primary, secondary, and tertiary packaging meets this ambition. While much of our work starts with design for recycling or design for circularity approaches, in order to meet our ambitions, we know we cannot do this alone. And we look to great partners like the Recycling Partnership to help advance solutions. And through many initiatives, such as the Polypropylene Recycling Coalition, Circular Economy Accelerator, and the US Plastics Pact.
So the Polypropylene Recycling Coalition is an example of fast action. And when I say fast, I mean very fast. This group was just launched 4 months ago. And in that time, we've already set to work with an RFP for MRFs who are hungry for an equipment upgrade to be able to recycle more types of plastics, including polypropylene. And thanks to the companies that you can see on these slides, these are companies that represent the Polypropylene Recycling Coalition. We're providing more than $2 million in grants to catalyze the infrastructure in this country to be able to recycle more types of polypropylene. That's fast. And that's the sort of commitment that we need of companies coming together. And again, what is exciting to me about these companies on the screen is that we see brands, but we also see resin producers, we see packaging converters, and we see recyclers. We see the entire supply chain coming together to work hard to help communities improve their recycling programs and all working towards a healthier planet. We're not stopping there. Research is underway for things like PET thermoform so we can continue to expand the pathway to circularity work.
Thanks, Keith. We are so pleased to be part of this new coalition as we take on the challenge of many materials, including flexibles, such as those used in Happy Families' organic baby food pouches. These flexible materials are important to keep our products safe, maintain quality, and to meet the needs of families on the go. But they also face challenges specific to their ability to be recycled in practice by consumers across the US. Initiatives such as the Pathway to Circularity and the Film and Flexibles Coalition create opportunities to collaborate and co-develop potential solutions to these challenges.
I agree with that. These voluntary actions are critical to providing the types of solutions that this country needs, but we also then have to scale them. Ultimately, we need to accelerate progress. And in order to do that, what we need to do is match up with this pathway work, this good work on infrastructure. We need to match that up with policy. And that's why the Recycling Partnership is advocating for comprehensive policy solutions that will provide funding needed to really level up our US recycling system. And if you're not clear about this policy work, I hope you take a moment after this meeting to Google Recycling Partnership and policy and learn more so that you can be engaged.
I couldn't agree more, Keith. A comprehensive approach is needed for us to all achieve this circular economy ambition. And in addition to the design for recyclability and evolving infrastructure, consumer engagement and recycling, we continue to advocate for policy needed to drive transformational change. We're supportive of the Recycling Partnership's approach to policy and truly believe that all of these components across industries and sectors are needed and will be built through collaboration. And that's really what it's going to take to achieve a working and a thriving circular economy.
So what can you do? How can you get involved? First, take a look at the playbook, understand where your packaging format fits in, and then give us a call. If you're involved with polypropylene, films and flexibles, or tubes, we'd love to have you as part of the Pathway to Circularity. If you're not active in policy yet, we'd like you to get involved. We'd like to see you join the US Plastics Pact. And through these collaborative efforts, what we're seeing are common goals, common metrics, and common actions, because this is bigger than any of us can do on our own, but we can solve this together. With you, we can help transform the US recycling system for good.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks everyone for being here and joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for showing up today, committed to making change when it comes to plastic recycling.
Thank you from the Association of Plastic Recyclers for the opportunity once again to address the Sustainability Forum. As you know, we've been here the last few years. And why is now the time to use PCR? And I think that, as you know, at APR, everything that we do is focused on increasing the utilization in the market for post-consumer material. All our technical programs, everything that we do is based on that, our design programs, et cetera. And, with Walmart has really been a leader in this because they have been the driver in encouraging their suppliers to use PCR for several years now with their packaging playbook. But now you've got company. You've got states and regulators that are now looking at requiring PCR in the marketplace. And then, of course, you've got the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the Global Plastics Commitment with over 450 brands that have signed on to use their sustainability metrics, which include things like using mandated content. And, increasing the demand for PCR, let's be honest, it's going to impact a systematic change, which will lead ultimately, we believe, to better design of material, more supply of material, more sortation, more material available in the marketplace to meet these sustainability commitments. You've heard me say this before. Without market demand, all the system is doing is collecting, sorting, and processing trash because you don't have a customer. What kind of business model is that? And so I think the fact that companies are either going to begin to use PCR voluntarily, or they're going to be encouraged to do so by major retailers like Walmart, or they're going to be required to do so by states and potentially the federal government. You've already seen a couple of states implement PCR legislation. And then, of course, you have a lot of conversation now in Capitol Hill in Washington about some sort of national post-consumer recycled content requirement. So the time is actually now. And I think that, more and more companies are going to be working with their suppliers to help those companies meet their sustainability commitments as we go forward. And if you think about it from a process perspective, expansion of the utilization of PCR is the driver that monetizes the system, because the market demand is the customer, and it's the customer that is paying for the material. And everything, as we've indicated, up until fact of the market demand component is a cost. The customer provides the monetization for the system. And again, as we talked about, that monetization is going to lead to enhanced sortation, better design, more material available to meet the commitments out there in the marketplace. And, I think at the end of the day, more importantly, the utilization of PCR in the marketplace provides the, quote, circularity that everybody talks about. You simply cannot have circularity in the recycling waste management stream unless you're using PCR. So when we talk about the circular economy for packaging, it begins with PCR. So thank you for your time. As you know, at APR, we're always willing to answer any questions that might come across. My contact information will be on the slide. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan from Sam's Club, who will take you through some pretty important activities that's going on over at Sam's. Jonathan?
Thank you, Steve. Hello, my name is John Genord, and I support perishable food packaging development for Sam's Club Private Brands. I wanted to take a moment to share with you my keys to being successful with transitioning to new sustainable packaging. First, there are plenty of resources for you on the Walmart Sustainability Hub. If you don't have a copy of the Recycling Playbook, you're missing out. The playbook is a wealth of information to help you get started and identify your sustainability challenges. You can also find resource groups full of plenty of incredibly talented and intelligent individuals like Steve at the Association of Plastic Recyclers who can help you to tackle the tough challenges. Second, sustainability is a complex subject. I've worked in packaging my entire career, and there are many challenges we don't have answers to. I'm here to tell you to be brave. Don't be afraid to ask for help from your suppliers, to say, I don't know, and to challenge others to keep looking for new solutions. Third, bring your cross-functional teams along with you. Leverage their expertise to help avoid pitfalls that could set back the implementation of your project. Demonstrate to them how big of an environmental impact you can make by making a change. Encourage them to be sustainability champions and tell others in your organization about the great work you're doing as a team to get others excited to tackle this challenge. So how did my team get started? Well, first we analyzed each category and created an easy to reference 30,000 foot view of our sustainability challenges, leveraging the recycling playbook and how to recycle data. We identified some quick wins to get the team excited about sustainability and the impact they could make. Then we discussed the harder to solve problems in the set and asked for help engaging suppliers and their suppliers to help us find solutions. With everyone aligned, we went to work and set goals. I hope these tips help you to be successful, and I can't wait to hear about the impact you are making. Help me in welcoming Luis to talk about his success in private brands beverages. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Luis Mesa, and I source private brand beverages for Walmart. I'd like to share a couple of examples where we've had great success in our journey to improve packaging. The first example is our half-liter multi-pack water bottles produced by Niagara. These bottles are made out of PET and use approximately 55,000 metric tons per year. Partnering with Niagara over the last 10 years, we've been able to attack sustainability on several fronts. The biggest impact we've had has been in lightweighting the bottles by 41%. This has reduced our annual PET use by an estimated 23,000 metric tons and carbon emissions by an estimated 33,000 metric tons. We've also removed the cardboard trays from the multi-packs and nest packed the bottles, strengthening the pallets enough to be able to remove the slip sheets. And as a result, over 26,000 metric tons of cardboard and carbon emissions by 97,000 metric tons. Finally, the bottles are now being made with up to 20% rPET. The second example I'd like to share with you is our 1 liter alkaline and electrolyte water bottles produced by Premium Waters. They're also made out of PET. When the recycling playbook was published, we learned that the clear pressure-sensitive labels used to contain the traditional glue that does not allow the label to separate from the PET bottle, resulting in the bottles not being recyclable and ending up in a landfill. Premium Waters worked with a supplier to develop a glue formula specific to beverage bottling, so the labels can now separate from the bottles and be recycled. They also modified their lines to be able to efficiently apply the labels with the new glue. As a result, we're now on track to divert about 9 million bottles from landfills and reduce carbon emissions by an estimated 300 metric tons. I want to call out that these two examples were not achieved overnight, and rather the result of a relentless sustainability focus over several years, building one small win at a time. I'm pleased to say that through their efforts, these two companies have successfully developed technologies and manufacturing methods that did not exist in the industry and are now setting the standards for it. So I encourage everyone to review the recycling playbook and identify where the biggest opportunities are for improving sustainability. Then build a plan to improve them that consists of one small win at a time and relentlessly focus on it. If you do that, you too will improve the sustainability of the products you produce.
Hi, I'm Bridget Croak. I'm Managing Director at Closed Loop Partners, an investment and innovation firm working to accelerate a more circular economy. And I'm excited to share how innovation will play a role in driving circular solutions for packaging. As an investor in the circular economy innovation, we primarily see two major categories for innovation in this space. One is just redefining how we deliver products altogether, so new delivery models, which often include refill, and direct material innovation in the packaging and the material. Now, recycling and composting innovation is also important, but I'm going to really focus here on the actual packaging. Packaging innovation is part of a broader supply chain, both the packaging supply chains and the recovery supply chains. So it's critical that we don't go to market so fast that we create undesirable side effects, like beverage cups or bottles that leak or have utility problems, or compostable packaging, for example, that looks recyclable, causing consumer confusion and therefore contamination in the recycling stream. So the way we think about this is we need to identify the best-in-class innovation out there, work across the supply chain and with brands and retailers to test and pilot these solutions. And then at that point, once we kind of solve for some of the risks, we can scale those solutions. And with this approach in mind, Beyond the Bag is one example of a retail collaboration where Walmart has partnered with closed-loop partners and other major retailers to scour the universe for innovation across the two categories that I mentioned, plus bagless solutions, which may include systems and technologies that remove bags and packaging altogether. Will help with the most promising technology, help them pilot with Walmart and other retailers. And then once we de-risk through that testing, we can work towards driving scale. I think most Walmart team members and suppliers are familiar with the multitude of refill models that are growing on the market today, but I'd be remiss not to at least give a small nod to a few of our favorite smart refillable packaging models. Algramo, offering a low-cost refillable smart packaging system, Cup Club, which is one of the many smart returnable cup systems on the market, and then Loop, delivering products in returnable packaging direct to consumer. And then the other key category that I mentioned is material innovation, which is the other major opportunity for improving the recovery of materials while reducing impact from the extraction of raw materials. And here are just a few examples that we're seeing grow in the market. A few are things we're very familiar with, and a few might be kind of newer and less familiar to folks. So aluminum, while clearly not a new material, companies are definitely looking at the role for this kind of age-old, infinitely recyclable material for different kinds of formats than they've been used in the past. Likewise, paper is kind of a throwback material, but requires innovation when we think about the coatings and liners that are necessary for applications that might be replacing plastics to make sure that they can get through a recycling or compost stream. Biopolymers is kind of a third category and a fast-moving category, using plant-based materials in packaging that are either leveraging biomaterials, turning them into a polymer that can then hopefully be recycled, or turning them into something that can be a compostable material. So bio does not necessarily mean compostable, but there can be overlap. And then finally, nanocellulosic materials, which is an earlier stage technology exploring the use of materials that both look and behave like plastic, but are made of cellulose and therefore compostable and potentially recyclable in some uses as well. So I'm going to jump into a few very specific examples here of some of the companies that we're seeing grow on the market that we think are particularly relevant to this group. So TemperPak, this is one of our favorite companies that's growing fast due to the risks around EPS foam, which you might know as foam peanuts. TemperPak manufactures a sustainable insulated fiber packaging for cold chain shipments for both perishable food and pharmaceutical uses as a drop-in replacement for EPS foam. And this is particularly relevant, we think, for e-commerce, and reduces both the waste from that the foam peanuts, but also those are typical contaminants in a recycling facility. And this is a material that actually adds economic value to the recycling stream. So it's really exciting, and I think a huge replacement for a challenging material type. BioPBS is just one example of a bio-based compostable and recyclable coating on fiber packaging. It's a promising option for contaminated food and beverage fiber packaging. And while this PHA and other compostable solutions are really promising, if we're thinking about going down the compostability path, we should really be thinking and thoughtful about the use cases that we're using that for, and also plan to make sure that we're investing in composting infrastructure to be able to recover that material. This material also can be used in recyclable outcomes as well. So there's lots of applications around these kinds of coatings. And then finally, again, one of our favorites, Mori, which uses a natural silk protein. It creates a tasteless, invisible protective layer over food that slows down three key mechanisms making food spoil: dehydration, oxidation, and microbial growth. So it both reduces food waste, but it also minimizes the need for plastic packaging around fresh foods. It's most relevant for, as I mentioned, fresh foods, and that could be kind of whole produce or cut salads or other cut fresh foods, but also for seafood and meat, where there's a lot of plastic and material waste. And in addition to that, they're also working to integrate this coating into paper packaging to make it act more like multi-layer plastic pouches, which are very hard to recycle today, but have huge utility in the market. So it's a really kind of exciting technology that can fit across a lot of applications. So these innovations represent really just a snapshot in time innovation is continuing to evolve, and we're seeing a growth in circular packaging systems and supply chain innovation based on the market signals created by retailers like Walmart, consumer brands that are making big commitments and investments into these solutions. And we definitely encourage all of you out there to find ways to partner with innovators, to work collaboratively with your peers and across the supply chain to de-risk these solutions and help scale promising early stage technologies. And also, of course, to continue to set the market signals that will bring innovators to the market and help these scale. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for attending and for all of our speakers for such great insights and impactful messages. You've heard from Walmart leaders, suppliers, and experts about how we can work together to significantly reduce plastic waste now and move towards a circular economy. We've learned about the importance of innovation in waste reduction and recyclability, the need for improved measurement and transparency, and the power of collective action. While recycling is important, we've also learned that it's not the silver bullet needed to break the plastic wave.
We encourage you to aim high, innovate, take bold actions to create change. And we're here to support you on that journey with tools and resources from Walmart's Sustainability Hub. If you're a supplier, we invite you to participate in Walmart's annual sustainability reporting period before it ends on November 20th. Private brand reporting is critical to highlight all of our suppliers' incredible efforts and making progress along our company's journey to zero waste.
We must dramatically change the future, and this is the decade that matters.
It will take each one of us, individually and collectively, to start taking bold actions now to help stop the growing tide of plastic waste. And we are honored to be on this journey with all of you. Thank you.